is the owner of these artifacts. You cannot loan to the owner what you stole. And these laws that bar British museums and the Victoria and Albert Museum from doing the right thing, it just tells you that the laws in this country are here to serve only one demographic, okay?
The Ashanti Empire had initially invaded a neighboring British colony. Under the law as it stood at the time, under international law as it stood at the time, spoil of war was a perfectly legitimate process. For centuries before that, right back to classical times, the right to take the property of a defeated enemy was regarded as one of the basic principles of international warfare.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm well. Now tell me, so the idea, a 3-year loan of these Ghanaian royal treasures, is this a model, a useful model for future deals to you?
Most definitely not. This isn't progressive. It's absolutely regressive. Look, it also demonstrates the height of colonial mentality that the British government in 2024, we have laws in place that allows the British government to bar these museums from giving back goods and artifacts that were stolen. Ghana is the owner of these artifacts. You cannot loan to the owner what you stole. And these laws that bar British museums and the Victoria and Albert Museum from doing the right thing, it just tells you that the laws in this country are here to serve only one demographic, okay? I mean, just think this through. The purpose of the law when it comes to theft is to punish the perpetrator and put the victim in the position they would have been in had their goods not been stolen. But these laws are doing the very opposite. It is what I call the idiocracy of white supremacy. It is colonial mentality at the highest level.
Okay, let me just put this to you then. I can hear the passion in your voice. You obviously feel this very, very deeply. What about the idea of a practical compromise here that actually serves everyone's interests? We're talking about a deal. You know, of course, that you show that under British law, it's not possible to hand these artifacts over permanently, to leave the country permanently. So a loan would allow these artifacts to appear back in your country where they originated and stay there for years, as well as, I don't know, smoothing over a problem and paving the way to better relations in the future.
What utter nonsense. And I say that with every respect. I think, John, you're trying to play devil's advocate here. So this is why I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt, all right? And I'm British Nigerian, not British Ghanaian. But on behalf of my Ghanaian brothers and sisters, absolute nonsense. Compromise in the best interest of whom exactly? This is solely in the best interest of Britain, not in the best interest of Ghana. How, you know what? If somebody wants to tell us that this would be a compromise, then let's do this. Why don't we take the Britain's crown jewels, take it to Ghana? We simply take it. It's not even a loan. And then as and when we choose to, in the best interest of everyone, we will loan it to you for 3 years and get it back. How about that? How is that a compromise? And when you say that the laws in this country make it impossible, again, this is utter nonsense. Laws can be changed. The laws were put in place to maintain that idiocracy of white supremacy because of that colonial mentality. The laws should be changed and the artifacts should be returned to their origin, their owners. Because, you know, I've heard some people who are clearly intellectually challenged who come up with the premise of, well, if we give it back to the owners, well, quite frankly, it means that these artifacts will lose value and they won't be able to take care of them, which again is another utterly nonsensical statement to make. If Africans, Asians had not created these priceless artifacts, put the value on them and preserved them, Britain would not have found them to steal them in the first place. So who is best placed to protect these artifacts? And the true meaning of this artifact, it most definitely is not the thief, i.e. Britain, it's the owner, Ghana.
Right. I mean, you couldn't be clearer in what you're saying. And yeah, I mean, I'll accept and admit that I am playing devil's advocate to an extent here because that's partly what I do. But so let me just conjure a vision for you. I suspect I know your reaction, Ashoda, but let me conjure a vision of museums sharing and displaying great artifacts, historic artifacts, beautiful artifacts, priceless artifacts from each other's countries in each other's countries. They're therefore shared for the people of the world. You can argue art, you could argue, is a thing which does not know borders. So if I put that emollient idea to you, Shirley, are you just going to shoot me down?
No, I'm not going to shoot you down because the premise here is that any sharing of art cannot be on the premise of theft. This is the point. Ownership is key and vital. So yes, if we're coming from the place of an equal, footing where these artifacts are acknowledged by the people who sold them, that they're owned by somebody else, and that the origin is restored, then of course, I mean, it would be like a beautiful, lovely library in which we can share books from time to time for a period of time, and people in Greece can see something lovely from another part of the world. People in Brazil can see something lovely from another part of the world. That's fine, as long as it is not the thief, acting like they're the owner. In 2024, we cannot have the British government acting as though, well, because we stole this, well, technically, we colonized the country. You were thieves. You stole, you pillaged. And in 2024, it is time for reconciliation. It is time for a real apology that comes with justice. And that reconciliatory justice means returning back what Britain stole, including reparations. Look, John, I know, when you borrow something, okay, there's usually interest added on it, okay? So Britain not only owes Ghana, Nigeria, India, and many other countries their natural artifacts.
Yeah.
They should pay for having taken these for hundreds of years.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing your thoughts and your passion, Shola Moshogbami. I'll put some of those questions now to a very senior lawyer who is Lord Jonathan Sumption, a former Supreme Court Justice. Hello to you, Lord Sumption.
Hello.
So you heard that. You heard the argument. It couldn't have been clearer, could it? I mean,
it's very clear. I'm afraid it is complete nonsense.
Why is it complete nonsense?
It's complete nonsense for this reason. These artifacts were taken in the course of the Third Ashanti War in 1874. They were taken as a result of a war in which the Ashanti Empire had initially invaded a neighboring British colony. Under the law as it stood at the time, under international law as it stood at the time, spoil of war was a perfectly legitimate process. For centuries before that, right back to classical times, the right to take the property of a defeated enemy was regarded as one of the basic principles of international warfare. Now, that remained the case until in 1899, the Hague Convention, an international treaty governing the practice of war, changed the rules and made it contrary to international law to take enemy property regardless of the outcome.
Yeah.
So the suggestion that these items were stolen is complete nonsense, with great respect to the lady's passion, which I quite understand, but it's not true.
Okay, then well, let me just put it to you then. You're using and citing the law from a century and a half ago. Now it's 2023, and we take a dim view of looting treasures from other people and other countries. And these treasures clearly have their roots and their ownership in the history of the Asante Kingdom. They are said, according to that culture, to hold the souls of dead Asante royalty. They're more than just valuable baubles. They're part of the life and history of that country, the living history of that country. And to say that they belong to us now because they came to us via laws that existed a century and a half ago sounds a little bit tin-eared, I suggest.
Well, you may think so, but I'm afraid I don't agree with that. The principle that artifacts should return to the place of origin unless they were acquired in accordance with modern moral and legal principles, which only came into existence decades or centuries later, is absolutely pernicious. We have to accept the fact that in the past, people acted in accordance with values and laws very different from our own. Trying to undo everything that happened in the past simply because it wouldn't happen now is bound to be an extremely destructive process. And one of the main victims of that will be the great museums of Europe and North America. They are wonderful instruments of public education. They are monuments to the most beautiful creations of the human spirit. The British Museum, which is probably preeminent among them on a global basis, is a universal museum which is instructive precisely because it covers the whole range of artifacts from ancient and modern civilizations. Now, they are also visited by far more people there than they are ever likely to be visited by local museums simply exhibiting the treasures of a local tradition, such as the one in Kumasi, where these artifacts are apparently going to be exhibited.
Yes. Oh, you'll know that Tristan Hunt, at the V&A, argues that items that were looted, plundered, and taken during war, that places something of a moral obligation on those who own them now to show consideration to the former host country. Clearly, you don't accept that. Now, let me ask you.
I think it's arguable that there's a moral obligation,
right?
but it's not an argument that I accept, because leaving the law aside at the moment, morally, artifacts like these belong to all humanity and not simply to the particular section of humanity that happens to live in the Ashanti province of Ghana.
Okay. Now, what about the idea of this loan deal? Is there room for a meeting of minds on that, Lord Sumption?
I don't have a particular problem about this particular loan deal. I think that 3 years with an option to extend it for another 3 years is too long, but that's essentially a matter for the trustees of these two museums. What I do object to is the principle that we somehow have to return these items to their place of origin because they were taken in circumstances where they wouldn't be taken today, because I think that we have to accept the legacy of the past.
All right, Lord Sumption and Shola Moshog Bamamu, thank you for those polar opposite perspectives. I have to leave it there.